Hello everybody. We have a game against Neon 2 908. He opens up with c4, very atypical of lower rated players, but it's okay. He now plays e3. Both of these moves target the center, so they're quite acceptable. We're just going to put a pawn in the center since he hasn't and control one of the central squares. He now develops a knight towards the center behind the c-pawn, so that's a good idea. Now it's our turn. What should we do? Simple pawn move d6, attacking one of the central squares, opening up the diagonal for our light square bishop. Solid move, principled move, can't be bad. White goes e4. This moves the pawn a second time. Now why would he do that? He's clearly clamping down on the square. So it's a type of system. That's fine. I don't mind. It takes extra time to move the pawn twice, so I'm going to use that time to develop a piece. Bishop e7, preparing castling. I have nothing better to do at the moment. He's creating a clamp in the center. It's kind of a closed game, so I'll take my time. He develops his queen, but this doesn't create any threats. Takes away the square from the knight. You can't push f4 with the pawn because the queen's in the way. Not a good move. Again, this move, not necessary at this point in time. Doesn't really do anything. You could just castle, but whenever they put their queen here, notice it's one knight's move away from here, as is this square. So let's put our knight here. It's a developing move towards the center. That comes with a clear idea and threat. So white simply solidifies the center and develops a piece. This would be good, except now when I jump my piece in, it's a free move. So instead of developing my bishop or castling, I throw in a free improving move. Why is it free? Because it comes with a tempo in these two squares. So the queen has to go back home. So now he has to undevelop. His position looks terrible. And now I get to go again. So it's a free move. Now a lot of you might be going c5 thinking, oh, let's copy him, gain the space. But you don't really want to do that. You always want to leave c6 in your pocket to control these squares. And you can always expand with f5 in the future. So we're going to simply castle, get our king into safety, now that our free moves are over. White jumps his knight in here, but white's only real asset is to try to use this square in the future. But he's already putting a knight here. We can kick the knight, we can take the knight and make him plug it with a pawn. But I see no reason to give him a nice wedge pawn here that strikes into our position. So I think c6 controls the center for free because it comes with tempo on the knight. It also opens the diagonal for the queen. And if I don't know why he took the knight instead of the bishop, he could have obtained the bishop pair, which isn't the end of the world for us because our position's so nice, but he took the knight. Now we keep our bishop, we recapture. And now he threatens our knight in the center. Fine. Now if you play c5, he doesn't have a knight to utilize here, but he could replace it in 3 moves. So we don't want to do that. We could just let him take. We're okay with these doubled pawns. I don't see them as a bad thing. So what do we want to do? We want to continue developing. We also want to just go with our plan of pushing this f pawn. So I think in the King's Indian spirit, we're going to go g6. Now why g6? Because I want to bring my bishop back because it's in the way of my f pawn, and then I'm going to push my f pawn. The g pawn supports the f pawn. The bishop protects the king. It's very harmonious. But now that he moved his rook over, you have the added option of going here, you know, saying you can't move the bishop because your rook's behind it. Um, if you wanted, you could do that. It's interesting, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to retreat my bishop. I like it nice in this hole. I guess he tries to copy me, but white should be ahead because he's playing white. But I'm actually get to push my f-pawn first before he gets to push to f4. So that's really good for me. So I'm going to strike in the center with the f-pawn, give my pieces some space, and maybe I can close down on his bishop and open up my own. I could one day move my king to h8 so it's off of this diagonal. Something to think about. This bishop, generally you don't need to move it until later at the right time. You don't just want to move it to be like, oh, I put it on d7. It might just be a waste of a turn. So white goes and does this. This doesn't threaten anything. I don't know why he did this. The pawn doesn't need support. Maybe he's getting it out of the line of sight of the bishop, but if anything, it creates more weak dark squares. So queen a5 check is an idea. It does hit the pawn, which would then coordinate here, so that's nice. You also do have this, which is nice, opening up this side, forcing the trade. But this is just like a clear advantage because, well, if he blocks with the queen and your queen's here, do we have any cool tactics? No, I don't see them. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to just trade queens. If we take and he takes, it opens up our rook. But I'm not thrilled about that. I kind of like pushing the best. And if he takes, we recapture. Yeah, let's push. He can't develop his knight really at any point because this light square is so weak too. I'm gonna have pressure. So he takes, but we take. And now he's forced to basically do something. But now this is gone, so that severely weakens the light squares, which makes our light square bishop a lot better in the future. He moves back, but can we do this? If we go here, he can't take, right? Because takes, defended by the rook. So, that looks strong. Queen here. Then he can develop here, and yeah, let's just shut the door on this bishop and the knight. So they both can only develop here, which may be their best move for sure. Yeah, that wasn't it. He had to develop here, in which case I would have probably just put my queen here and let him trade, because the threats around his king are strong. But now we get, oh, I should have probably taken with the rook. I didn't even pay attention. Now rook here, bishop here, so maybe knight's fine. It comes with a check. Yeah, knight's good. So he moves his king, but now I'm up a piece. And so now this alignment is, you know, a developing move. It's clearly deadly against his king. And he'll probably just resign. He does not resign. Notice if you just, let's say, move your knight, I don't know, to e5, saying, ooh, discovery. He can play something like f3 blocking your bishop. So you don't want that. If you go to, let's say, knight h4, and, you know, maybe you win his bishop, but he wins yours. What you want to do is go knight d4 and create a double check, because whenever it's a double check, that means the king has to move. And if the king has to move, that means he can't interpose. That means you win the queen. But do we have a checkmate? Yes. Actually, queen here was checkmate, so you don't even take the queen because he moved in the wrong direction. He would have to put his pawn here, but then you take it, and that would be checkmate. The knight is defended. Awesome. So let's see. Development, center. Center, development. Center, development. Development. Development, center. Occupying the center, but this is really about threats, forcing moves, concreteness, and free moves. That's a free move. I'm gonna put that on my overlay because I always say that free moves. So anyway, this one is king safety, center, and development. You know, force move. And then this one is like, if you look at this, right, and you say, okay, what moves can I make that affect the center? You know, this, he'll take, you'll take, he'll take, you'll take. You'll have a one pawn in the center, you'll have your queen in the center. You could definitely play that position. What other moves affect the center? This one hits this square, but it's just changing one square for another. It solidifies this, but weakens this. I don't see the benefit. This hits the center, but it's not really doing anything. It just kind of looks pretty. So, you know, this hits the center, but again, that file's closed. So you look at the center, but when the center is locked like this, where their pawns just kind of in front of each other, and you really shouldn't be pushing pawns, or you could, but there's no clear benefit. You may want to look, you know, one file over, the pawn break file. It's where are your pawn breaks. My pawn, the black's pawn break is this square. That's where the pawns would meet with tension. So you prepare that. This is in the way, so you could just move the bishop back and go f5. But the thing is, if he takes, you have to take with a piece, which is totally fine. But if you take with a pawn, that then controls the e4 square, which means he cannot put a piece there, and that's huge. So you go g6 to therefore to recapture with the pawn, so that you can apply pressure to the center. So this g6 move is really about the center, recapturing with a pawn towards the center. Okay, so this is preparing our plan, right? Center. And if he were to take, we would have taken back with the g-pawn, not the rook or the bishop or the knight. Because we want two pawns here to create threats of pushing. And just like now, we push, and that creates threats. It creates like the bishop's opening in reverse for us. And this is what happens. It opens up and creates weaknesses. It displaces his pieces. Center, 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 center. And now this is about king safety, right? We use the center. His king is unsafe. We're shifting from the actual central files to these files, but we're still using the center, right? This just stifles his development, and this is just a blunder. Fine. So hopefully this helps you get an idea of how to start the attack on the king when your pawns are facing that way. Good luck in your chess. Hopefully this helps. Goodbye.